Hello, and welcome to the FM podcast. I'm Jen Fritz, and I run Fritz Media, a music publicity and digital marketing firm located in Vancouver, Canada. And this is episode number 14 of the podcast. So this week's show is all about social activism in music. And joining me on the show is Vancouver rapper Neon Empty, also known as Bryce Lokken when he's not being a rapper. And he just released a single last week called Red Lives Don't, a song that he describes as an expression of frustration and disgust with white Canada's hypocrisy about racial inequality during the summer of 2020, the summer of Black Lives Matter. Neon Empty, who is Métis, uses shocking language in order to get people's attention to highlight a very important problem that we have in Canada, anti-Indigenous racism. He uses the language to shock and provoke in order to be heard in the same way that Black Lives Matter activists use Defund the Police, just as an example. And to quote Neon Empty, or Bryce, which I call him in this interview, this song is a call out to Canada's hypocrisy. You can't tackle systemic racism in Canada without addressing our deepest rooted, bloodiest, most vulgar problem, the hatred of Indigenous people and our constant attempt to silence, destroy, and minimize those who look like my grandmother. End quote. His grandmother, by the way, is a residential school survivor, and we talk about that a little bit during the interview. This was a really great chat, and just a heads up that there are a few more F-bombs than usual in this episode. So fair warning, it's probably not suitable for work or around the kids, etc. You know, just letting you know ahead of time. Anyway, here's my conversation with Neon Empty. Well, hello, Bryce. How you doing? How you doing today?
I'm good. I'm really tired. It's a Saturday and I worked all day and I don't want that to be the case. So I don't know. I can answer differently if you want. Tired from working all Saturday.
No, what I want is the truth here on the FM podcast. So
there you go. Oof. Never give me permission to tell the truth.
Well,
it gets really messy.
That is actually very true. I'm starting off wrong here. Let's back it up a bit.
Yeah.
All right. So you're a Fritz Media client, just full disclosure, everybody. And we're currently working on your brand new single, Red Lives Don't. Just came out last week. And that song is the reason I wanted to have you on the show, because we're going to talk about social activism in music. So I kind of wanted to start off with wondering if you can tell us how the song came about.
Yeah, I think that as somebody who their whole lives has been exposed to low level, like racism as background noise almost, and like bigotry as background noise. I was born in northern BC in an actual trailer park. I remember being like 4, 5, 6 years old and driving past reservations and my family pointing out to me like, oh yeah, like look at these people. They waste everything we give them. They get everything for free. They're so lazy. And like, again, I'm an actual child at this time. And my father's side is Cree and my mom's side is like English and Norwegian. And so I was raised by my mom's side. She left when she got pregnant. I didn't meet my dad till I was 4, but I was raised by white people and always presented as a white person. And so just for me, always being racist, and then in my 20s being called out for my own racism against myself in a way. And so switching over to the other extreme of being hyper aware of this problem and how starting to see how deep rooted it was in everything in Canada, that we had then, you know, the next 10 years of me trying to not be racist and getting rid of my own biases against my own self. Then to see kind of 10 years after that process started, we had Black Lives Matter pop up. It was like, this is really great. I'm so excited this is happening. Yet, like, where was this the whole time? Yeah. It's not like racism didn't exist and it just started. So what's going on here? What's the root cause? And so naturally, I think that I do tend to be cynical of social movements. I do tend to be cynical about the human species, unfortunately. And I just saw so many people taking selfies, taking cute selfies, retaking selfies at these rallies. And it's just like, what are you here for? You know? And if you are here to stop injustice, let's let's look at the bigger picture and look at the Indigenous hatred that we all have. That's a long answer, but is the truth, I guess. So
no, I mean, that is exactly how you got to, writing that song. There was a lot of frustration and anger that led you to it, which I don't know your experience, but I can totally understand. I'm someone that was born and raised in Alberta, so I was brought up with anti-Indigenous racism. I saw it, I was taught it, and so can totally understand your frustration. You speak about just like the journey you went through just in learning that, relearning the racism, like against yourself it's an interesting thing. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Like just what that process was like?
Yeah, it's really interesting because it wasn't even something that I started for myself. I know that even when I was in grade 9 and we have our very quick in BC requisite, oh, by the way, there was like a bit of a genocide. No worries. Like we have that very quick sort of glossing over of that part of history. Even then I would just sit there being like, oh, can these people stop whining, and so it wasn't actually until I was in my first band and I was 19 or 20 or something. And I was in this band with a history teacher. He was this Irish heritage friend of mine named Mike. And I remember one night I kind of just said something like that at a practice. Like we were just talking about something happening locally in Prince George, where I'm from. And it was Mike that put me in my place. This like 24-year-old guy with a history degree, substitute teacher, was like, dude, you're off base. Like you're wrong. And he called me out for spouting all that shit that, you're from Alberta, you get it. Like, oh, they get their smokes and gas for free. Oh, they're just lazy. Like, this background noise of hatred.
Yeah. That's all I grew up with. Like, that's all I know. Like, I mean, I had to unlearn all of that, and I still am unlearning all of that. It's built into the fabric of this country.
Yeah. And that's exactly it. And so that was the process, right? It was like this process of, and I was doing a lot of this stuff. I was learning to not be transphobic over the next 5 years. I was learning to not be homophobic. Like I spent 5 years in a very like right-wing church in like youth group, kind of opted into that. And then, multiply that with my background racism. Like I was created to hate. Like I was created to be that person who's posting on Facebook, like get over it, snowflakes. And it was really hard to shake. So yeah, it was a long thing, like a long way to go. And even as I like was writing this song, even as I was working on this stuff, it's just like, I even myself am the problem and I am the person who would benefit from the solution. It's such a hard dichotomy to live inside of. And I think that a lot of people who are like mixed race, mixed heritage, my understanding is that a lot of people struggle with that. Like I've said things that were like pro-Indigenous before, and someone's like, you ever even been to a reservation? And I'm like, no. I was like raised in the poorest part of the suburbs, and then white people are just like, they'll make jokes about First Nations people in front of me my whole life. And I'm just like, bro, like, I'm not you. So it's a really strange journey. And I think that perspective from sitting in the middle of the tracks is interesting. And then, that was sort of like slow growth through my 20s. And then when I was about 31, my aunt, after my grandmother died, and I was so detached from that side of the family. I only spoke to my aunt. She was the only one without sort of like addiction problems. She was like one of the only safe ones I could speak to. So I kind of reconnected with her when I was older. But when my grandmother died, she left me out of her obituary. And I also found out after that she was in a residential school. And so that was also a really jarring thing. I had never known that. And that's when all of this like intergenerational trauma snapped into place. Like there's a reason I don't know my dad. And it's not entirely that my dad chose to be a loser. Like there's a reason that all of her kids had or have substance abuse problems. And it's not just that they chose that. Like they aren't by any means like degenerates, but from my like raised white, raised in the suburbs, don't touch anything. Like my mom never did anything. I don't even remember her drinking. So then like, being at a place when I would visit my dad's family where they were like smoking, drinking, sometimes drunk, I would hear certain family members talking about cocaine in language they thought was coded. Like I was aware, so it all started to kind of click into place. And that's where my empathy kind of kicked into overdrive of being like, I get this now, like in a core internalized sense.
Yeah. It's interesting how so many people don't see addiction as some sort of choice, like somebody would choose to do that. The lack of empathy we have around that, just here in Vancouver, on the downtown east side, just for one example, like it's incredible to me. And it's always I mean, intergenerational trauma is a hard thing, and in most families, that's a lot. So your song "Red Lives Don't," the lyrics is really the provocative part of that song. And when we started working together, I was very scared. And that particular line, which is, do you want to just give it to me here? Basically the chorus,
You like that stage, I hope you choke, where Black Lives Matter and Red Lives don't. So light that sage, mirrors and smoke, where Black Lives Matter and Red Lives don't.
Yes. It's very powerful in the song. It is your story. It is your journey. You can tell that story, but we had so many conversations just with talking about, is this going to sound like all lives matter? Is this going to upset people in the Black community? It's such a politically charged issue. Thankfully, we finally we landed at a place where we felt okay. And, we talked to some people around the Black Lives Matter movement here in Canada, and we finally, and you're coming from a good place. I think that is part of it. But yeah, it is a charged song just because of the lyrical content of the song and how it could be interpretive. I'm wondering what led you to use that language specifically.
Yeah, because I knew what it would do is really the answer. Like, I knew that I was choosing something that was going to grab attention and get a reaction. There's like a couple quotes that I really like. One is a Nirvana quote originally, which is, "I don't care what you think as long as it's about me." And there's a part of me that still holds that very juvenile, like really wanting to kind of create a scene. But more than that, it's, I have always lived my life like a wildfire. Like, I've always been a risk taker. I've always been willing to make a scene and, deal with the consequences later. And as I've matured, it's been more of like a sort of something I can utilize, like understanding how to wield that power without just doing it for the sake of doing it because I'm unhappy or like a messed up kid, coming from a bad home. Like, it used to just be reflexive, and now I kind of understand. And I'm a huge fan of the power of words. Like, I am obsessed with words. Like, I never stop writing. Writing is part of my job. Writing is something I do in my spare time. I'm always like listening to words or reading words or engaging with words, like most of us are. And so, yeah, it was a matter of, one, it's an interesting way to phrase it. It like uses that writing technique of like comparison of two phrases. I think that just the ubiquity of Black Lives Matter is that seeing color, like, insert color here, lives, something, it kind of grabs your brain quickly, and you're like, I think I know what that is referring to. Like, I think I know what that's comparing itself to, even without seeing the comparison. So that was the idea there, was I want to ruffle feathers. And I always forget whose quote this is, but there's this line that says, art should disturb the comfortable and comfort the disturbed. And that's, I think a lot about that when I make things. Like, I'm not looking to make comfortable people stay comfortable. I don't care. Yeah,
I think that's what is the interesting thing about you. We haven't known each other long, but in getting to know you, I found that, you do like to be provocative. You like to shock people, but you are also concerned about the impact that, the harm that it may cause, instead of being like shocking just for shocking's sake. Yeah. The way a lot of comedians are. Oh, yeah. You do think about the impact, and because words can cause harm. So yeah. I wonder what you think about that. Like, there's two sides of being provocative, right? There's the way you do it, which is, I wish, the way most people would do it. You have good intents. You're just trying to ruffle some feathers and get people to think a little bit. I mean, especially with around this song, it's Black Lives Matter. Everybody was behind the Black Lives Matter movement while ignoring anti-Indigenous racism in our country, which is a fair point. And this is it was the words that you use get it across so well. Like, it hits you in the gut. It really does. So yeah, I'm sure that you did think about, the harm that it might cause, and you were a little scared. But of course, yeah, I think I'm wondering more about like how much thought you put into these provocative things you say. Yeah, and it's not none, that's for sure. So I actually had
given the nature of this song, I actually had quite a few people that I reached out to almost, I don't want to use the word permission because I think the word permission is a lie, because if I was told outright no, I probably wouldn't have listened. But to hear from people who, one, are, to use this term poorly, more Indigenous than me, in the sense that they live with, when somebody looks at them, they immediately go, that's an Indigenous person. Because for me, what I get most of the time is, really? Or like, oh, now I see it once I mention it. It's not something that people look at me and it becomes my identity in the same way that any person of color is looked at and they're like, oh, that's who you are. You are this thing.
Yeah.
I am Bryce. I am the norm. I am, I look like everybody else. So I wanted to talk to people who live that every day to see if it even resonated, or if I was just being like an impetuous little child. And, they had positive things to say. So, I reached out to some, especially like Indigenous women, as like what I would say is this country's single most despised and marginalized and mistreated group of people. I wanted to talk to Indigenous women. So I reached out to a client of mine who's a very successful Indigenous business owner, a very learned, well-spoken woman. Talked to her. I did reach out to my aunt who lives that same sort of life. And my aunt's partner is not Cree, is sort of from another nation. So I was able to talk to some people, and then sort of near the end, getting closer to release, like you said, being a little bit worried about actually causing harm. My position on causing harm was that I would be willing to take requests to talk or explain myself from any person of color. But if you are a white person, I literally don't fucking care what you think about my song. Like, I don't care that you are offended on behalf of somebody else. Fucking go home. I don't care. And that's just the reality, is like, I will deal with the fallout if I have hurt somebody unintentionally. Like, I can look them in the eyes or look them in the eyes virtually and say, hey, listen, I'm sorry. Like, tell me if this hurts, like, what can I do? But that's, I think, the best that we can do. And if we live our lives trying to ruffle zero feathers, it's going to be a pretty soulless existence.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And I think, when we were discussing the messaging around it, and, we landed on, you have to say things to get people's attention, like in the way that Black Lives Matter uses defund the police.
And that was a great example.
Yeah.
Yeah, you need those phrases, right? Because the phrase, like, I can't make a chorus of like, hey, friends, not to interrupt too much, and I hope you're having a good day, but maybe later can we, like, all music that's powerful, I've been thinking about this since you gave me the title of this, is anything that rallies against something, anything that is activist, is fighting against a straw man and a mascot of that thing. Like when people write songs that are anti-Blue Lives Matter, you unfortunately have to keep in mind, like, you have to have this caricature in your head of that loud, obnoxious asshole who has a Blue Lives Matter flag with like the Punisher logo on it. I'm just using Blue Lives as an example here. But it really is, it's much harder creatively to like think about that group of people as like a bunch of humans who are like scared and confused and go easy on them. Anytime there is, I think, their activism or a message that is not about like oneself, you are talking to a straw man. You're talking to a caricature. Even when you're writing a song about how much you hate your ex, you're not thinking about, oh yeah, but there was like some things, maybe something was like, no one writes that song being like, hey, maybe it's kind of my fault and a little yours. Like, you have to write big and intense, and it just has to be big. And that's how most music is.
No, it's really true. And, social and political activism has been a part of music forever. I always love when people are like, just play the songs. We don't want to hear your politics. It's like, what are you even talking about, buddy? I wonder if there were any musicians like, that do have social activism in their music. I wonder if there's any musicians like that influenced you when you were making Red Lives Don't.
I mean, it kind of. I can say like holistically yes, and in particular no. And the reason I can say holistically yes is that the reason I've wanted to be a musician and like be a quote rock star since I was a little kid, like 14 years old, I got my first guitar, and I've been sort of chasing being a musician at a level that is more than like 3 people listen to my songs since since, then, like almost 20 years. And the reason is the ability to like create change through music. It transcends a lot of things. It transcends a lot of barriers, a lot of boundaries. If you are listening to a Rage Against the Machine song about police brutality, that can transcend a lot of different things. There are going to be, gay people, trans people, like even conservative people, liberal people. Like there's just something about music as an art form that takes away the face as much and sort of lowers our walls. And so, in that sense, like I listen to almost exclusively heavy music. Like there are 3 rappers I like, maybe. And so I grew up listening to, like, Eminem was like maybe the one rapper I listened to because I was a white kid in a really shitty home who came from a trailer park. Like I could relate to everything Eminem was saying, down to like somebody, like my parents drugging my food. Like I could relate to everything that guy said. And that was my introduction to hip hop because I lived in the suburbs of northern BC. Nobody was listening to Biggie. And so then a lot of my music I listened to was based on playing guitar. My guitar teachers influencing me. So that was a lot of like Tool, Rage Against the Machine, bands in that vein. And like Tool's Activism is a little bit more, you kind of have to listen for it, but I've always been really obsessed with words. And so I would like work really hard to understand what they were talking about, like what it was they were actually rallying against. And so, yeah, a lot of the music that I like has something to say, no matter what it is. Like I have no patience for anything David Guetta like has ever made. I think it's an embarrassment. I think it's an absolute joke. And when people are like, hey, and I apologize to the folk artists you represent, when somebody's like, hey, I wrote a song about like a really cool steamboat I saw one day, I'm just like, use your fucking platform for something, please. Do something. Like write something vulnerable so someone can feel like they're not alone. Write something angry so you can kind of create some change. But like, I don't want your song about like a steamboat or dancing the night away. Like, fuck off. And so from the outset, everything I listened to was very like lyrically dense, like lyrically purposeful, very intense. And I think that you can just kind of hear that throughout everything I do. Is always intense, is always purposeful, and I try not to waste like a single word on a throwaway line.
No, thank you for that. I'm assuming you don't listen to a lot of pop music.
Hey, like I love Marianas Trench. Like Josh is my second favorite writer of all time. But again, like even Josh from Marianas Trench, like if we want to call that, like it's very fair to call that pop music, but like Josh is generally like sharing some story of like some hurt or some situation. And even that is like, okay, there's something in there. Yeah. There's something he's relating or sharing. But yeah, when somebody wants to write a song about dancing the night away and the nights we won't remember, I'm just like, go home. I don't know why we give Drake the room.
Well,
I don't, I'm wrong. I know I'm wrong. And that's why I'm less relevant than Drake. But like, I just can't understand it. And my understanding is that most people don't even listen to words. Like when I talk to people, I'm just like, oh, do you know what that song's about? And they're like, no. Like, do you know how many writers that album had? No. Like I'm the outlier that cares about how many writers an album had in the words.
It's really interesting too. Yeah, I'm always amazed by those people. I'll sometimes be having a conversation, with somebody about music. And I'm like, okay, do you listen for words or do you listen for music? Because there are people, like you listen to music in 2 different ways, right? I'm definitely a words person, 100%, always have been. And I'm just like, I'm always amazed by those people. Like, what do you even, like, what do you hear? Like, what do you hear?
Yeah. I can't listen to Carly Rae Jepsen, which again is really frustrating because I think Josh wrote a lot of those songs. I know he was one of the 4 writers on Call Me Maybe. And, like I've listened and people are like, this is such a good pop record. And I'm like, what? Again, like, Carly had a platform. She had people who were listening, and I turn on a record and it's just like a couple questions about how like a couple songs about how like boys are cute. And I just go, I'm sorry. Like, like we don't need more of this. Like we have Pitbull, like Pitbull exists. We don't need anything else meaningless.
Oh, come on. Call Me Maybe's a bop. Give us Call Me.
Of course it's a bop. Of course it's a bop. But again, there's just no substance. Right. And so that's where I am wrong. That's where I'm the outlier is that I myself can't bring myself to listen to things with no substance. And it's I'm incorrect. I'm wrong. There you go, world. I'm wrong. I'm usually wrong. I'm wrong about most things. I'm not saying I'm right. I don't know why we listen to me talk. I'm wrong. So we'll just get that out of the way. I apologize immediately, emphatically and fully. Sorry, Carly Rae.
You heard it here first, everyone. Bryce is wrong.
No one should listen to me.
So, you mentioned, you picked up a guitar when you were a teenager, and you're kind of a musical chameleon. Like you're right now, you're releasing music as Neon Empty. You're a rapper, but you're also a rocker. So, which I find really interesting. Do you play in a rock band now? And can you tell me a little bit about your rock band side?
Yeah, so I play in a prog band that's been around for about 17 years, and they're not much older than me. So they started when they were about 16. It's a band called Tenant. They're from like the Vancouver area here. And I saw Tenant when I was like 18 years old and just be like, oh, I hope I can be in a band someday. And I have been a massive Tenant fan forever. Like Tenant, when I made my first like Spotify master playlist, like I remember putting Tenant on there, like my favorite Tenant songs. And so, I'm somebody who can't, that's my cat meowing. I'm somebody who can't stop creating, and it's actually very frustrating for me because I wish I could just be like, life's all about drinking a beer on the porch. Like, and I just can't make myself. And if there's any hypnotists out there who can make me forget about creating, let me know. But I wasn't doing enough music when I moved to Vancouver. I made a couple songs with a couple friends for an EP that I was like, whatever. And then I was just like, you know what I want to do? I just want to be in a pop punk band. Like pop punk is so fun. I don't even have to be good. I can just sing songs about like pizza and my hometown and my friends, and just like this exercise in doing something really easy, like 4-chord songs. I can play guitar or bass at the same time and sing if they need me to. Like it'll be so fun. I love pop punk, and then I saw on Craigslist, it was like Tenant needs singer. And I was like, why would some band take the name Tenant? It's already taken by Tenant. And then it was them. And I like very pathetically messaged them being like, hey, what's up? It's me, your biggest fan, and sent them a video. And I've been in Tenant for a year and however long now, like a year and 3 months. And we were actually just about to go in and record a full EP for the second wave of COVID hit, and we just haven't practiced. But yeah, it's the opposite. So, I mean, Neon Empty is me like working with some beats and like laying down stuff on my own. Generally, a Neon Empty song is like, if I'm in the mode, is like finished in 2 hours. Like I don't write them very often. I need to be inspired, but like they're 2 hours. And Tenant is prog. Like these songs, it's the opposite of pop punk. So they change key 3-4 times a song. Like time signatures are all over the place. Some songs, our writers can't even explain what key it is to me. And it's my job as the vocalist to sing very high, a lot, very well, and write hooks to songs that were never designed to have hooks. And it's just like the Olympics of songwriting is all I can explain prog as. It's just how hard of a song to play can you write that is just on the verge of someone being willing to listen to it. So on top of Neon Empty, I've got that going, and it's the opposite because it's 60. My estimate is it's 60 to 80 hours for me to finish vocals for a Tenant song.
Oh my gosh. You're living your dream though.
Kind of. My dream makes me very tired, and no one cares about the things that I make as a result of my dream. So if that's a dream, it starts to feel like a nightmare after a while, but I appreciate that I'm living someone's dream. Somebody who has a less fragile ego and doesn't have the desire to be liked would love my life because they just get to make a lot of stuff. But me,
it's a lot.
I'm a marketer. I look at my input output, and yeah. So, but I am excited. Like Tenant is, they're the most talented people I've ever played with, and hopefully that kind of that will come through, and hopefully I can keep up when we get that EP done.
Yay! Well, looking forward to that.
I have to scream on that record too. So. Oof. I have to be a singer, a screamer, and a rapper sometimes. And yeah, it's
a lot. It's a lot for you, Bryce.
It's a lot. I do too much. I'm doing this new thing where I say no to any commitments for the next 2 months. That's going to start today.
Oh, good. It's hard to do. I have to tell myself to do that too, but it's very difficult. Yeah. Boundaries, Bryce. Boundaries.
Yeah. I'm getting there. Slow and steady.
So when I was doing just a little bit of research for this interview, I saw that you are also a bit of a mental health advocate, which I probably knew because you probably told me when we started, but I guess I forgot. Can you tell me just a little bit about that? And I was wondering how you started doing that and why?
Yeah, for sure. So I was born, at the start of this interview, we talked about how I was raised by my white family and we left my Indigenous family behind. And the reality is that I may have wound up better off in terms of mental health in the Indigenous family that had addiction problems. So I grew up in like a hyper abusive home. So my mother would just sort of let men move in. I started to get like physically abused when I was a baby. There are stories about that by my brother's father. And yeah, she never really eventually they kind of just all got away with it. So there was just a lot of men that would kind of move in. Some would be emotionally abusive or neglectful on the lower end. And, some would be physically abusive and call me little faggot while I was cornered. And sorry for using that word, everybody. And threatened to kill me and drug my food. And, a lot of really bad stuff that I struggle to even think about. And that's what I grew up in. And as a result, I have a pretty textbook case of, mild borderline personality disorder that sometimes has presented itself as bipolar disorder, anxiety problems, specifically social anxiety, relationship problems. And I mean, the really great news is that I never thought it could be true, but like I am genuinely for the last some time, like good, like well, like I live a stable life, but I never thought that was going to be the case. So, even when I started unraveling this stuff in my 20s, when I kind of left my family behind, it was like, I am so beyond repair. And so that label of being like just beyond repair is like what I lived under the guise of. And, that belief that like, I will never be okay. And like, all I'm trying to do right now is like, wait till I'm 27 to kill myself so I can go out like Kurt did. And then I'll be a rock star, something. And interestingly, I'm not the only person with that thought. It turns out a lot of us wait till 27 to kill ourselves to join the club, and then we don't pull the trigger.
Yeah.
And so what happened was, as I started to get better, I realized that there was such an absence for me of anything like a role model. So for me, like a role model when I was 14, 15, 16 would have even been somebody who's like, hey, I have the same thing you're diagnosed with and I take the same medication. And like, look, like I've made my car payments for the last 3 years. Cause even that was inconceivable when I was young. The bar was so low. Like I was going to like be like a grocery store employee. I was going to live in a basement suite. And there were even like adults in my life. Like my own psychiatrist once said, I think I was like 17. And he was like, just so you know, there are forms we can fill out when you're an adult where you can just kind of be on EI permanently. Like you'll have to live in a basement suite with like a roommate kind of forever. But
what?
like, life will probably, that option was like presented to me. And
Wow.
The only thing that drove me was to like, I was just always driven by proving people wrong. Like always, like I will be better than my father. I'll prove you guys wrong. I will not continue the cycle. And so, having no role models and then realizing one day that like, hey, even with my imperfections, I am in a far better place than I ever felt possible. And maybe there's someone else like young Bryce who might benefit from hearing that. I kind of started speaking up more. And then, last year we launched, my friend Angela and I, who I used to be in a band with in Calgary. So I also did a 5-year bid in Alberta and left when it got extra racist. I don't know how it got even further.
Yeah, I'm surprised that it really just...
I didn't think they had room.
Yeah, they leveled up though, eh? Holy.
They did. They just put on their racism boots and went to work. And so we started a podcast called Songs I Wrote When I Wanted to Die. And the idea there was to interview musicians because we found that musicians were often the most willing to be open about these struggles because they're often, writing about these things or working through them, and they have the language for it and they have the vulnerability for it because they're vulnerable sort of semi-professionally. And that was just the journey. It was really just out of this, like, I don't know. It is like my life is going to be terrible no matter what. Like I will die alone no matter what. And, nobody's going to love me no matter what. So why don't I just lay it all out there in the hopes it helps somebody? And that was the start of that journey. And now I'm like sitting here in my apartment and like my partner who I love is like at work and who accepts me entirely as I am. And I have like money in my bank account and I have like a great career. I wouldn't have thought that was possible, but that was the start of that journey. Was this life is a throwaway. I'm going to fail no matter what. I might as well help someone in the process. But like, thankfully it all turned out better than I could have even imagined.
Oh, so, that's so awesome.
I don't know.
Yeah, I find that like I'm super open about my mental health issues as well, because I do find the more that people talk about it, the less the stigma is there. And it's such an important issue that, we just don't... we don't have the care for it in this country. There's so many like financial barriers to it. Yeah. We don't have pharmacare. Therapy should be free or at least subsidized in some way,
accessible.
Yeah. It's,
I love throwing things out like, oh yeah, my medication, or like, oh yeah, my therapist. Like if you're somebody who knows me, everybody who knows me knows that my therapist is named Mary and she lives in Illinois. Like that's just a de facto, like, that like I like these foods and like my therapist is named Mary. If you're my coworker, you know that. If you're my boss, you know that. And you're right. Like that normalizing even in conversation is just like, I just kind of liken it to like, the first time you're exposed to maybe that there are transgender people in the world. Cause I mean, at some point we all like learn that fact. Like we see I don't know how it is for kids nowadays, but when we were young, it was like, these are boy clothes and these are girl clothes, and that's what there is. And you have to have that first exposure to something. And, you know, just in the same way now that somebody could be like, that woman has a penis, and I'd be like, awesome. Like that there's nothing in that sentence that causes dissonance in my brain. I think that's kind of the thing that, you know, happens over time when people talk about their mental health in the same way. You know, it's just like, oh yeah, I forgot to take my meds this morning and I'm way more anxious. Like the first time you hear somebody say that, you're like, what did that person say? Can they say that? That's crazy.
Yeah.
And then eventually the people around me just go, oh, you know, like I'm supposed to go to like this outdoor birthday gathering later. And like I have historically been so bad in social settings that I've had to normalize standing up and saying, my brain is not being nice to me, I'm leaving. And like that went from something that was insane to the people in my life being like, oh, Bryce's brain isn't being nice, he should leave.
Yeah.
Like I just wish more people would do that. And that was the idea of the podcast, was that we have this like very like Bell Let's Talk, LinkedIn friendly version of talking about our mental health, where we're like, oh yeah, like once in a while, like I get a little bit of anxiety. Like I just like, no. And it's like, no, dog, like sometimes I want to off myself like for 3 or 4 days in a row.
Yeah. And
there's no reason for it. And I suck at work and I think that I'm terrible and I can't stop looking in the mirror about how fat I am. Like, let's have that conversation.
No, it's true. Like, let's just be honest, right? And, you know, I've been going to therapy forever, and I have always been the person that's like, oh, my therapist said, or, you know, and there are still people that, you know, who don't know me, and I'll just say it and they'll just like, what? Like, what?
Yeah.
What are you saying? But I give zero fucks. I don't care. I think that, you know, going to therapy is like going to the gym, like going to the doctor. Like, you know what I mean? It's, it's working out my friggin' brain. So
And I'm excited for the generation coming after us. You know, I think they face like a lot of struggles, but, you know, with the whole like earth exploding sort of thing. But, you know, like good for them that they seem to have this figured out. But, you know, simultaneously, they're going to have more anxiety and depression. The last stats. Again, it just gets worse all the time. So hopefully they're ahead of that by, you know, being in therapy young and figuring out that maybe they should delete Facebook a little bit earlier. But Godspeed to them, because at least that generation seems to have figured it out. You know, everybody I know who's younger than, you know, 25 is just so much better at that discussion.
No, that's true.
It's very nice to see, you know.
No, it's true. They have the language, and they're talking about it with their peers, which is incredible. Yeah. They're able to ask for what they need in a way that I think like, you know, previous generations weren't. Took us. I mean, it took me a long time to figure that out.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And there is so much privilege tied to being a man. One of the few things that we lack, again, outside of our immense privilege, is that we do have that built in, like, don't talk about it. Yeah. Like, even myself, as somebody who's younger at 33, that's what I was taught growing up. Like, we don't talk about it. Like, don't be a baby. And there is that layer that we have to additionally shake off. And one of the reasons we did start the podcast, and I talked to Angela, the co-host, is that, like, Angela, like, I especially want men to realize, like, they can't just like turn 30 and start losing their friends to, like, their friends get married, have kids. Like, men don't replace their friends because men can't talk about stuff and then develop deeper friendship. Like, there's a lot of research there. And that was part of the thing. And that's something that I decided I wanted to do with my life, was like not be one of these dudes who at 40 has like one friend from work.
No,
and that's it.
It's true.
Because that's
the thing. I think that men don't talk to their friends the way women talk to their friends, right? And so, you know, in my experience, what ends up happening is I have guy friends that end up using me as the therapist. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Because they... Yeah.
Oh, yeah, for sure. You're a much safer space than a dude who might make a joke. Like, we make jokes more uncomfortable. Yeah. And it just tears you apart, you know? So And I was guilty of that too. And that's where I was like, okay, well, maybe I'll pay Mary, and then I don't have to bring so much home to, you know, to Katie, my spouse.
Good old Mary.
Like, it's, yeah, good old Mary. So... yeah, that's a giant ball of chaos to answer the question, why are you a mental health advocate? So
we got there.
There's a 12-minute answer to that.
I feel like we got there, though. It's okay.
We did. Well, choo-choo, the train got to the station.
Okay, so this feels like a really good time to kind of move on over to our fresh content segment. Now, every week on the show, we discuss our favorite piece of music content for the week, and we always like to start with the guest. So, Bryce, what do you got for us?
If you haven't listened to Hamilton, or watched on Disney Plus, you should go to jail forever. And that's all I have to say about that.
Are you speaking of the musical Hamilton?
Yes. Yes. It's the greatest piece of art that our entire species has ever made. Full stop.
Tell me more.
That's it.
That's it?
I mean, it's incredible. I don't know what to tell anybody who hasn't heard Hamilton, but if you've been putting it off, like, you can't anymore. And it won record amounts of Tony Awards. Yeah, I don't know what to say. I used to think that my goal in life was like to be a rock star, and that was my purpose. And then I realized I was going to miss the mark by a lot. And now I just tell people to watch Hamilton. That's what I'm here on this earth to do, is tell people to watch Hamilton. So watch Hamilton. I got a bunch of Hamilton tattoos that I put on me. I do some covers sometimes.
What's your favorite song?
I'm really bad at favorite questions, by the way. I need more criteria. I don't know what that is. But if I had to like pick one song to listen to forever off Hamilton, I would listen to Guns and Ships. And my favorite song, just like as a aside, and I have part of this tattooed on me, is Wait For It.
I love this. I love this for you, Bryce.
I will eventually do I will cover the whole thing, start to finish, at some point in my life, very badly. Yeah.
I can't wait. This is incredible.
Yeah. I've listened through Hamilton's biography 2.5 times now. I moved into George Washington's biography. I am obsessive and creepy.
That's all right.
Yes.
I mean, it's a really good musical. So I think all of this information is fine.
Yeah. You also mispronounced the greatest piece of art our species has created, full stop. But I accept that you think it's a good musical.
Oh my God.
I'll die on this hill. I will die right on this hill, just like John Lawrence died in an unnecessary attack on British forces that were already leaving after the war was over.
Oh my God. Okay, so how about if I
Your turn.
Do my fresh content? Okay, so my fresh content for the week is the latest single from Doja Cat, which also features SZA. This is in the pop music category, so I don't know if you're going to like it, but the song is called Kiss Me More. It is pop perfection. I love SZA. I love Doja Cat. Together, it's magic. This is all I have to say. The song was basically made for me as a lover of good pop music. It's easy, it's breezy, and it's super, super sexy. I highly recommend it. It's available on all of your digital streaming platforms. There's also a video if you want to watch it on YouTube. Yeah, so that's mine.
I don't know any of the words you just said.
Yeah, I knew you were gonna say that.
And that's not because I'm cool. Like, that's not a cool thing. Like, I am irrelevant, guys. Like, I am so irrelevant. I'm done. I'm out of it. Like, I don't know what the kids do. I tried to hire someone to manage my own TikTok for me because I can't be bothered to open it. Yeah.
That's very on brand.
I wish I was cool enough to know who Doja Cat was. That sounds cool.
Well, she's amazing. So is SZA.
What can you give me an elevator pitch of Doja Cat?
Super sexy, dirty female musician and rapper. She's incredible.
Okay. Yeah. And this is one of the areas I get into trouble, and one of the areas I've had to realize it's just time for me to shut up over the years. So let me just cancel myself here really quickly. I haven't been canceled yet, and it's time. So one of the things I've always struggled with is this really elitist attitude of like, if you need sex to sell your music, that you don't deserve to have your music sold. And then I realized that was probably just a patriarchy thing, and I had a whole bunch of biases.
Yeah, I was about to interject with
I don't know what I don't know. And so that's where that sits for me now. Like, I wish I could just be like, I've really turned that around, but I am just at like, I don't know what I don't know. And I don't know what these people's experiences is. And I'm just going to shut up and just let people enjoy what they enjoy. And that's as far as I've gotten on that issue.
Yeah.
And I understand that I'm probably wrong again.
It's okay. I will just say, as a woman, it is pretty great to hear sexual empowering lyrics. It's great to sing along to them. I love me some Lizzo, love me some Lil Kim. I love that shit. And, it's empowering as a woman to hear it and to have to be sex positive and to not have to listen to a man talk about all of the ladies that he has fucked. And instead we can talk about the men we have fucked with no shame, and don't you slut shame me and go fuck yourself, basically.
That's great. And I am 0% a fan of shame, as I said, coming from the church. I think that to clarify my position slightly, I absolutely pumped about that being a thing. thing. I love seeing conservative people riled up because women are making choices about their own body. My thing is I always get really frustrated, especially when men write music and then need pretty girls with no clothes in their music videos to sell that music. I just go, nope.
No, that's fair.
Nope. You didn't do a good enough job then.
Yeah.
If you needed that. Just write a better song, which I say having sold 100 records in my life. So, I'm wrong in the outlier.
Well,
cool. Well,
maybe
we'll
sell you 100 more just with this podcast interview. I feel like.
Ooh, finally, we got it.
It's going to happen.
Big day. Big day.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. Is there anything that you want to plug? And of course there is, before we wrap this up. Maybe tell the people about your new song, where they can find you.
Oh, no, I was going to plug Hamilton. So Hamilton, you can watch Hamilton on Disney+. Most people can get a free trial. And also the whole album, it's a sung through musical. So it's sung through. You can listen to the whole thing in context. Like Wicked, for example, is not sung through. So you can listen to that. And then I have a song. It's on the internet.
Yes.
Neon Empty, Red Lives Don't. It's on the places you watch music and listen to music.
Yes, you can find it everywhere. You're at neonempty.com. Should people need to find you there? You're on.
Yeah, I actually got really lucky with all my usernames too. Like I'm even Neon Empty on Reddit. Like no underscores, no spaces. Across the internet, across the board, I am just at Neon Empty.
Yeah.
Good for me.
You got Neon Empty on Twitter, which I was amazed with.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's great. I also cannot wait to delete Twitter once this album cycle is over. Oh my God, what a cesspool.
I'm sorry, I forced you to do it.
No, you were right though. You're not wrong. My girlfriend forces me to brush my teeth. She's not wrong. Like I just should do it.
That's right.
I just want to go to bed instead. I always want to go to bed instead of doing something. So yep, that's what you can do. Listen to me, and then when you find it underwhelming, Hamilton, 14 Tony Awards, maybe 16. I can't pump it up enough.
Available on Disney+.
Disney+, yeah, that's absolutely.
Right. All right. Well, thanks again, and have yourself a good rest of your day. Bye.
Oh, I will. Bye.
That was such a good conversation. I really hope you enjoyed my talk with Bryce. It was such a good one, right? Oh, we had so much fun. Thanks so much for listening to the FM podcast. If you like the show, please tell your friends and give us a rating and review in Apple Podcasts. We'd really appreciate it. All you got to do is head over there, give us 5 stars, leave a rating, tell us what you like about the podcast. It's super easy, and it really helps us because we're brand new and starting out. So thank you in advance for doing that. The FM podcast is produced by Fritz Media. If you want to learn more about Fritz Media, check out our website at fritzmedia.ca. And you can follow us on Facebook. We're at Fritz Media. And on Instagram and Twitter at Fritz_media. And if you want to learn more about the podcast, go to thefmpodcast.com. And thank you to Said the Whale for providing the theme music of the show. You can find them at saidthewhale.com. Okay, so we're going to go on with our song of the week this week. And of course, after all of that buildup, we have to go out with Neon Empty's new single. Here's Red Lives Don't.
October 2020, Neon Empty, opportunist, half-breed, double-race traitor. I hope this song is as uncomfortable for you to listen to as it was for me to write and publish. Let's go.
Oh Canada, it's time we talk and it's gonna get rough. I'm gonna say shit wrong and I'm gonna lose friends and I'm gonna get threats from both sides of the fence. It's been 4 months since our nation said without any irony or blemish. How could the US do this? We will raise fists, no more racists. Asterisk is offer does not apply if you have red skin, cause we're fighting wars which were socially attractive. You like that stage? I hope you choke. Where Black Lives Matter and red lives don't. Like that sage, mirrors and smoke. Where Black Lives Matter and red lives don't. We see peace ain't coming easy. Police beat these fishers freely. RCMP hate me clearly. Canada, do you fucking hear me? If you saw 1-4 in me, how'd you treat me? Probably as poor as you treat these treaties. Social justice so pretentious and well designed. Make it look clean and concise for the timeline. If you made a public scene when George Floyd died, tell me what the fuck you know about Rodney Levi. I'm so sorry, honest, I get pissy when we go missing and nobody lifts a finger to listen. In the definition of our privilege is ignoring this while openly giving money to people in Michigan. Cause there's no water in Flint while ignoring both water advisories on reservations. So engaged, giving statistics about an imbalanced U.S. prison system. But Canada's Indigenous only face a 3-point difference. Huh? You like that stage? I hope you choke. Where Black Lives Matter and red lives don't. Like that stage, mirrors and smoke. Where Black Lives Matter and red lives don't. Born to be called squaws, born to be murdered. Birth to a system, I'm concerned with somebody's sister. A mother thrown in the gutter like burner phoning in platitudes again. Before this rave starts, let's take a moment and acknowledge that this land is stolen from some people that I've never met. And I'm gonna keep it that way, cause I like to keep a clean conscience. Got our speech in, we're back to guiltless. A lot of pale skin, up on a crucifix. But God knew why we pretend like the problems don't exist. Cause it's much easier to point that finger than to admit that our national sport is to look south and reflect. When the last residential school closed in 96. You like that stage? I hope you choke. Where Black Lives Matter and red lives don't. Like that stage, mirrors and smoke. Where Black Lives Matter and red lives don't.
Bye. I'll see you next Tuesday.